So I really don't want to do Parshuram. So we're not going to do it. Anyway, the bit of the Ramayana where Parshuram features, we've seen. He comes down from the mountain, the bow goes from Parshuram to Ramchandraji. Ramchandraji goes back to Ayodhya, Parshuram goes back to his Tapasya journey. And effectively, that's where Balakand stops. Balakand is the first chapter, I guess you can say, of the Ramayana. And Balakand's really fun. You've got Ramji being born, you've got the wedding. Sure, a few demons are killed, but nothing very horrendous. It's all very light, Ahalya is also saved. So Balkan's really fun. Now we start Ayodhya Kand. This is where the drama starts. Ayodhya Kand is very much now like I said last week, right? This is like, I don't know if you've ever heard it, but there's like in slang Indian Hindi language when somebody catches you and then they give you a really long story about how much heartache there is in their life and how some person is, very irritating or what's the word? Suffocating. Then when they talking about this in their life, they'll say, and then I had to hear one full Ramayana. This is the thing that is meaning like this person came and told me all their heartache is what it comes across like. And why is this term coined? Because now all the heartache starts. Because in Balkand, it's really, really beautiful. So Balkand starts with Janak Maharaj noticing that he's getting old. It's very poetically done in Tulsi Ramayana, where he notices a few gray hairs near the ears, and he feels like death is whispering to him because the gray hair is near the ears, saying that, time is not endless, and seeing as time is not endless, it would be a good thing to hand over the kingdom. Because Ramchandraji, anyway, is such a worthy king and so much excitement. So interesting also, right? Like, because sometimes the predecessor dies and only then the seat gets taken on. But better management is that you hand over. It's almost like crisis mode when the person dies and then you have to hand over, which you'll see is what ends up happening. But it's considered very good management. And so I know when Guruji gave head of mission to Swami Swarupananda, gosh, man, already 4 years now, 5 years now. Like all the top management people were like so impressed with Guruji because this is perfect management. Right? And then you become like a mentor in that situation. So Janak Maharaj's intention is to have good management. And so he thinks, yes, time is up. I need to hand over. And Ramchandraji was the crowned prince. This is not suddenly new. It's not like Bharat was supposed to be the king and then underhanded somewhere, suddenly Ram's being made the king. Like then something sneaky like that, then you can understand people getting upset. But Ramchandraji was born first, and so he was always going to be the king. There's no surprise here whatsoever. Although there is one, I think, this scholar of the Ramayana, where he says that Dasharatha Maharaj had promised Kaikeyi that her son would be the king. And potentially that could have happened. We don't have too much backstory. You have to read some of the more maybe folk tales or even in Valmiki, maybe if you read more details into the courting period that they had. So it could have been before any of the kids were born. Because see, Dasharatha Maharaj couldn't have kids, right? So there was a really long period when there was no kids born. So maybe when he first met Kaikeyi, and maybe when they first got married, potentially. Although this is hearsay. We don't know for sure that he promised Kaikeyi, your son will be king. But he definitely pampered Kaikeyi. So maybe he even just said it in passing without realizing what he's saying. But when the kids were born, Ram was born first, and then there was no, Ram was going to be the king. So, Bharat is in Kaikeyi, the kingdom of where Kaikeyi is born, when this announcement gets made that we'll be coronating Ramchandraji as the king. Oh, sorry, once more, but very nice. That Dasharatha Maharaj has this thought when he sees the gray hair and he thinks it's time to hand over. But before making the decision, he goes to Guru Vasishta. And even though it's a good decision, he goes to Guru Vasishta and says, this is my thoughts. What do you advise? And so you see here also this beautiful tradition, always getting blessings. I've mentioned it about Ramchandraji also, when we talked about the Dhanush Yagna. There's always getting blessings for whatever it is, the course of action. I guess maybe they're kings, so much of what they do affects so many other people. So to definitely have this sounding board to make sure that the actions will be beneficial. And even Sage Vasishta totally agrees. It's an excellent decision. And so the announcement gets made. And I know I've been guilty of this. Sometimes, we think up something and then we start planning and maybe you didn't tell every single person. And so definitely all the queens were not notified. This seems to be Janak Maharaj's habit. Dasharatha Maharaj's habit also. But in the story of the Ramayana, it's definitely a male-dominated world. They probably didn't even think they had to tell the queens. It's definitely a Dasharatha Maharaj kind of attitude to have. It was a sign of the times. So none of the queens were informed. Maybe Kaushalya, because Ramchandraji mentions it, or Sitaji mentions it, because all this preparation now has to get done. So before becoming the king, you have to do tapas for a few days. Because it's seen as purifying yourself for the responsibility. And so sleeping on the floor is one of it. And celibacy and fasting and doing prescribed number of japas, rituals. There is a list, but those are the ones that I can remember. So announcements made, and immediately Ramchandraji has to start doing all these things to prepare for the coronation. So the announcements made, and Bharat's not in Ayodhya. Bharat's in visiting his mum's side of the family, where he was very, very loved and pampered. And so Shatrughan and Bharat have gone up. And so this is where Dasharatha Maharaj is faulted. So two things. Dasharatha Maharaj has the thought, I'm getting old, I should make Ram the king. Goes to Guru, says, I should make Ram the king. And then he's very, and we've seen this already about Dasharatha Maharaj, he's very, what's the word? Spontaneous. But maybe not he doesn't think things through. Impulsive sounds a bit mean. I don't think he was that bad also, but maybe somewhere in between impulsive and spontaneous, because he was a very good king. And Ayodhya did have thriving under Dasharatha Maharaj, and he did do a lot of good. So sometimes, when you glorifying Ramchandraji, it's easy to make everyone else sound not as good, but for everyday person, Dasharatha Maharaj was pretty good. So I wouldn't say impulsive, because like I said, it was always known that Ramchandraji was going to be the king. But yeah, didn't think it through because Bharat wasn't there. And so he was faulted for that. Wait for Bharat. You're going to make Ramchandraji the king. Such a big deal. What's the matter of waiting a week or two till he returns? Like, why do it when Bharat's not there? And again, like I said, from my experience also of sometimes getting caught up in making a decision and starting the action, people get really annoyed when they didn't know about it and they feel they weren't included. Sometimes they feel they weren't consulted. Sometimes they just feel they weren't included. Like, how could you forget me in this venture, and this person's probably just so lost in their own world. And so I guess it's valid. Like, how come I wasn't important enough in your world for me to feature? Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you include me? And so not including Bharat there's no malice. Like when Dashrath Maharaj does this, there's no malice. But from another point of view, it's, yeah, wait for Bharat. He's as much Ayodhya's prince, and he's as much loved, and he would definitely want to be such a part of such a wonderful occasion. His love for Ram, Ram's love for him. Even in terms of perception, this is another thing sometimes when we get so lost in our mind, we forget perception. Like, to make Ramchandraji king when Bharat's not there, from a point of view of perception, the people of the Ayodhya would think, where's Bharat? And so it could be seen as, why are you doing it when Bharat's not here? And people play games, and there's lots of political agendas and psychological warfare. And like I said, Dashrath Maharaj had no malice whatsoever. But having no malice is a very separate issue to not thinking things through. Because actions have consequences. And wah, did this one have a consequence? And if you think about it, if Bharat was there, it wouldn't have happened. Bharat would have only stopped his mother from making any kind of... Because the minute, so the story goes very quickly. You all already know the story. But Bharat would have only, like hearing Kaikeyi went into the anger room, Bharat only would have been like, what is mother up to? I'll go sort this out. Like, don't disturb father at this point in time. And so, from a point of leadership, this is why Ramayana, Mahabharata are such brilliant scriptures, not only in terms of teaching spirituality. You can learn a lot about management, psychology, human relationships from this. So that's, in fact, exactly what we try to do in the Chinmaya University, Chinmaya Vishwavidyapith, and we've introduced Indian knowledge systems. And so management, one of the things about management would give this example. Dashrath Maharaj failed as in managing when he did this when Bharat wasn't there. Even though, like I repeat, he had no malice. But yeah, Bharat's as much his son. Like, in your excitement, did you forget him? Which is the trigger that mantra uses to win Kaikeyi over. So when something looks suspicious, you can create a drift. You can use it. Nothing looks suspicious, only what you want. Okay, so Dashrath Maharaj makes this announcement. Ramchandraji goes off to prepare, and the whole palace is now in preparation mode. Now, a coronation is as big a function as a wedding, in that you'll need all the decoration, all the food, all the festivity, plus the puja bit of a coronation. And I don't know if you've ever prepared for pujas. I mean, in Hong Kong, we do really simple ones, and already people get very stressed about preparing it. But if you're going to do a proper puja, oh my gosh, there's so much preparation. Getting all the necessary ingredients, the order, the cleaning, the decorating, the positionings, placements. So full on, right? Work has started full on. And so much hamagama in the palace. People running here, people running there, collecting this, cleaning this, starting to decorate things, starting excitement when God created. And in this excitement, Manthara, who is Kaikeyi's nanny, I guess would be the translation, was a witness for her when she was born, says, oh, what's happening? This is a small thing. This can, what's the word? Needle into somebody's mind. So Manthara is elderly now, and she's hunched back, so physically considered not the most attractive. She came from Kaikeyi to Ayodhya, and so was always viewed a little bit as an outsider. Not the friendliest personality, so didn't make a lot of friends, but had this sense of authority of, I'm not just a servant. And so wanted to talk down to younger. There's all of this kind of mood you see. And so one of the younger girls, seeing that she doesn't know, it's like, you don't know what's happening? Like, how is that possible? Because she tends to always know what's going on, being in Kaikeyi's favor and having more access to Dashrath Maharaj. That was her thing, that she held pride, that, I'm senior, I know more, y'all should respect me. And then this is the point. And when people have a prickly bit, other people like to prick. It's so interesting. And when people have a prickly bit, it's so evident for anyone paying attention. So this young girl, obviously, like, it's made her day that she gets to poke and tell Mantra, oh my gosh, you don't know what's happening, of all people. That already sets her off in a very bad mood. Sometimes that's enough. Someone annoyed me. I'm in a bad mood. It's going to ruin everybody else's day. Unfortunately. Oh, maybe not unfortunately. But I'm going to lean towards unfortunately. She was clever enough to be able to ruin everyone else's day. Sometimes, somebody wants to ruin everyone else's day, they got no dumb in them. They just loud, which can also ruin your day, sure. But Manthara is a whole different ballgame. So let's pause here and shift to the land of Kaikeyi. So Kaikeyi was born first, I think the eldest of 7 children. The father, of course, wanted sons. Like I said, it is definitely a patriarchal system during the Ramayana. She was born first and so ignored. Her twin brother, born a few minutes after her, got all the attention, because now he'd be the crowned. For some people, it doesn't prick as much. Like, there's this world and there's this clear divide between male and female, and it's grossly unfair, but it is what it is. And for some people, it just doesn't sit well. And so Kaikeyi is definitely the latter. This incredible prejudice for the son being favored or glorified and given responsibility, given opportunities, did not sit well. And so we see Kaikeyi is a very independent, capable woman. Very intelligent, very determined. And already you have this sense of she wants to prove herself. And then her mom is sent away. Don't know exact details, but maybe they didn't get along. One of the books I read suggests they didn't get along. We don't know exactly. But Kaikeyi loses her mom very young. And so now you're stuck with a dad who didn't want to go. And 6 brothers. This makes Kaikeyi very determined, again, but also innovative. She learned everything the brothers learned. She knew every skill that was needed to be a king or a prince. And then she was given a lot of responsibilities because mother wasn't there, and so a lot of the rules, protocols, all of these, what do you call them? Maryada. What's the English word for Maryada? Formalities. Like, these roles that have to get played, she had to play because there was no queen and she was princess. So a lot of responsibility. Now, her mom's not there, so the mother figure to her is Mantra. Mantra, very calculated. Mantra was incredibly intelligent, and she made it a point to know palace gossip. Because when you know what people are doing and what they're thinking, you can choreograph, orchestrate, manipulate. Mantra did all of that on behalf of Kaikeyi in Kaikeyi. Also, when Kaikeyi's mother was banished or left or whatever reason was sent away, Mantra could have lost her job. So she had to be really smart to keep it. And she was. And she taught all of that to Kaikeyi. So it's interesting. Before the class started, and I said today's class is going to be mainly on Kaikeyi, somebody said, oh, the baddie in the story. But it's interesting from where you see. Because actually, Mantra and Kaikeyi just doing what they need to do to survive and thrive. Because just surviving wasn't enough for their personality. Just being in the background, just existing. They far too intelligent. And when we have skills, when we have talents, we can't help but use them. I'll give you a simpler example. Somebody who's very musical, and then let's say they never get any opportunity to do any kind of formal singing whatsoever, but they'll happily sing at parties for their friends. As a mom or a dad, they'll sing for their kids. They'll just always find a way to sing. When we have a talent, when we have a skill, it will just manifest. So both Mantra and Kaikeyi, very intelligent women. And if you give them nothing to do, they find something to do. So if you see it from a point of view, they just being them. And they were thrown into a world where being forthright didn't serve them. In Kaikeyi. Now, what happens when they come to Ayodhya? So, when they come to Ayodhya, Dashrath has, goodness, something like 300 queens. Now, here's Kaikeyi, who has learned to make sure she doesn't get bullied, doesn't get sided, she doesn't get overlooked. She was the eldest of 7 children. She held her own. You can't expect her to be one of 300 queens. It's not who she is. She was going to find a way to be on top. Mantra too was not going to let Kaikeyi just be one of 300 queens. Mantra was very efficient in strategizing, and not just strategizing, in, I can safely say, manipulating, because she really did. It's interesting, when politicians do it, is it called manipulating? It would be called strategizing. It will be called politics. When companies do it also and put themselves in the forefront of the market, it's called business. Are you seeing where I'm going? Yet it's seen as so negative, that Mantra and Kaikeyi did it. In business, people get hurt and then you say it's just business. In politics, people get so hurt and you think, yeah, it's politics. And then suddenly, it can be seen as unattractive, unpleasant, undesirable. This person's the villain. Was she the villain? Well, she definitely had baggage. I wouldn't say she's the villain. She has baggage. She was left alone to fend for herself. And so left with the need, a little bit like Karna in the Mahabharata, with this need to prove herself. So, very, very capable. She realized her father was going to marry her off for some kind of political game. So she only decides. But I think there is some romance. She and Dashrath Maharaj meet on the battlefield. She helps him in the battle and saves his life. He recognizes her skill and also her beauty. She was very, very beautiful. And she liked the attention. So she agrees to this marriage. Here there's a book now written, Kaikeyi. The story, her story. But the author makes it very clear that it's fictional, right? I mean, she's drawn elements from the Ramayana, but it's fictional. And so in this book, when she gets to Ayodhya, then there's all these games that Kaushalya, Sumitra, and her are playing with each other. And it makes it sound like Kaushalya was also like pretty on it in this version of the book. I've read another version, which I think I mentioned last week, where it sounded like Kaikeyi was the one who played the games and Kaushalya was like really the chari. She didn't want to play the games. If you go from the story of like even Valmiki, Kaushalya did too much tapas to be interested in games. So I'm going to lean towards that. In terms of fictional stories, was there a little bit, jealousy and competitiveness between all the different queens? Very possible. And who was more sneaky and who was all in? I don't know. If Kaushalya had done so much tapas, she'd have a pretty strong mind. And I don't think by any means she'd be weak. Although I've read, I think, 2, 3 fictional stories where she's rarely depicted as weak. Like this Bichari queen that got forgotten when Kaikeyi comes and takes over everything, especially the Dashrath Maharaj. And so she's neglected because basically the Dashrath Maharaj is with Kaikeyi every day. But for somebody who did so much tapas, I don't think she cared. She wouldn't be running after her husband. The purpose of her birth was to have Ram as her son. Like that's very clear when you're reading Mother Kaushalya's story. Like she's done so much tapas, she could have asked for moksha, but it would be so nice to have Bhagavan as my son. And so just before I get moksha, let's have Bhagavan as my son. And so from what I mean, again, all of it is fictional. I don't think she was interested in the drama of the palace, and I don't think she was bothered by it. So if Kaikeyi came and she's young and she's innocent and she wants the spotlight, take. She was here for devotion, is the kind of sense I get. Although no fictional story has capitulated her in that way. So she comes to Ayodhya, and now she's in the palace, and Manthara comes with her. And so this palace politics continues with Manthara being on top of things in terms of palace politics, which is why this young girl was like, you don't know, was a real critic, because she prided herself on being on top of palace politics. So we pause here, we change to develop. In the heavens, when Dashrath announces that Ramchandraji is going to be the king, the Devatas in the heavens gets very upset, very anxious. And I already told you their job was to stand and throw flowers. They weren't looking for the flowers. They were very annoyed. They immediately called emergency meeting. We have to do something. If Ramchandraji is crowned the king and he gets kept comfortable in the palace. He'll never leave Ayodhya, and then he won't ever kill Ravana, and Ravana will continue to torment us. And so we have to make sure he leaves Ayodhya, and we have to get him out of that palace, and he can't become the king. And so this is the Devatas. Who are the Devatas? Please remember, the Devatas are just jivas who have earned these positions as Devatas. This is not God. We never call Devatas God. Westerners came to India and didn't know what to call the Devatas, and so called them God. Because, in Greek mythology, the god of water and god of this, but we never call them gods. They are Devatas. Because they're just like you and me. They have loads of problems, lots of jealousies, lots of insecurities, lots of anger issues. So this is definitely insecurity. They want Ravana out of the way. Ravana is troubling us. Ravana is bullying us. Ravana is tormenting us. Somebody needs to kill Ravana. Only Ramchandraji can kill Ravana. If he becomes king and sits in Ayodhya, Ravana will keep tormenting us. So what should we do? What should we do? Let's torment Ram. So he can go and kill Ravana. So then they think, who will be able to do this job for us? And then they thought, we need the wisest person possible, which is Saraswati, goddess of knowledge, also goddess of speech, also goddess of scriptures. So they called Saraswati Ji to the meeting. She wasn't present. She had to be called. Saraswati Ji was above all these emergencies, running around of the Devatas. She wouldn't bother with them. A normal kitty party was of no interest to her. She was either painting or, inventing a new raga in music. Silly Devatas. So they said, you need to spoil this situation and Ramchandraji shouldn't become the king. And her first reaction is, why would I do such a horrible thing? Why would I want to hurt Ramchandraji? So the Devatas are smart enough to know that if they say to kill Ravana, she would not be interested at all. Like they Faltu Devatas doing all these things, but they were this much intelligence they had. So they said to Saraswati Mata, well, if he doesn't leave the palace, and if he doesn't go into the forest, then he won't meet all these great saints and sages to bless them. They'll come to him. She is goddess of knowledge, right? And then he won't be killing Ravana. He'll find a way. Then they think, desperate times call for desperate measures. So finally they say, if he goes through hardship, his character will shine more. And they'll sing his praises more. And they will have to invoke you to sing his praises. This makes us stop and think. Because for Saraswati Ji, the purpose of speech is to praise the divine. And so speech is going to be used to praise him. She's very happy about that. The purpose of music is to feel devotion and love for Bhagavan. And if that's what it's going to be used for, she's very happy about it. So she pauses. And the Devatas know they've won, because now she's not arguing with them. And so they keep saying, the devotees will praise, and then Shruti will be created, songs will be created, dances will be created, and he needs to go through, and this is true, right? Like if you want a wonderful story, there needs to be a storyline. So you are creating a storyline so that people can see Ramchandraji's glories. Is that what the Devatas wanted? No. They wanted to get rid of Ravana. But Saraswati ji wants this. Saraswati ji wants speech to be used to praise Ramchandra ji. Music and art to be used to revere and worship Ramchandra ji. And so she agrees. Off she goes to Ayodhya to find how she can spoil this coronation ceremony. And she goes from house to house, house to house. Everybody has so much love in their heart for Ramchandra ji. She can't spoil them. She actually comes to Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi has love in her heart for Ramchandra ji. But then she finds Mantra. Mantra did not have love in her heart. Why? Sometimes when you go to see, she had this hunchback. People would taunt, judge. But if she had a hunchback and if she was a really sweet character, nobody says anything. She was this little bit grumpy character of demanding respect rather than giving affection. And so people would, if people want to taunt, any excuse will do. Whatever they can find, that's what they'll use to taunt. And a physical thing like being hunchback is so prominent. So they picked on it. This insecurity. Also, it's interesting. Like I said, both Mantra and Kaikeyi have this need to prove. Karna in the Mahabharata, this need to prove. But it never works. Because whatever you do out of the need to prove yourself isn't enough. Because of this belief of need to prove. It's just so interesting. And Mantra had Kaikeyi's complete love. I'm sure that meant the world to her. And so she holds on to it with so much more vigor. And so it is said that it's Saraswati ji that plants the seed in Mantra. And that's why Mantra can speak so efficiently and powerfully to convince Kaikeyi. It's very much written in Valmiki Ramayana. No. Tulsi Ramayana. It's not written in Valmiki. And so very often when reading the Ramayana, this will be that Saraswati Devi comes and she sits on the tongue for it to make all these comments. Later on in the Ramayana, or was it later or earlier? Earlier in the Ramayana, but we will see it later in the Ramayana. When Kumbhakarna is going to ask his boon, so Ravana asked for a boon, Kumbhakarna asked for a boon, and Vibhishan asked for a boon. They were all three brothers doing tapas. Ravana asked to be powerful, Keya, be powerful. And then Kumbhakarna, because he was so big and so strong and so capable, again they say Saraswati ji sat on his tongue, and instead of saying, I want power, she changed the word and said, Nidra, which means sleep. And so it's like, in the Ramayana, she's set up to be this real controlling kind of who kind of manipulates speech to serve purpose. So I want to make it really, really clear that devatas don't do that. Devatas cannot change the flow of our intentions, and karma. Nobody can change our karma. Bhagavan has given us free will, and nobody can take that free will away from us. So there's two things. Even yesterday in the Gita class, for those of you who listen to all the classes, I talked about Dvaita and Advaita. When we see God as separate, Dvaita, I exist separate from God. Then there's this feeling of being controlled, of things being outside my power or my scope of ability, capacity. And so we blame. Saraswati did this. Bhagavan did this. It's done to me. In Dvaita, it's very easy to think, it's done to me. I am powerless, God is powerful, and it's being done to me. In Advaita, there's no way God is doing anything to me. Firstly, God's not a person to do. And then Devatas are people, yeah. And they have lots of power, they do. But we have free will. Devatas don't have the power to take away free will. So Saraswati can't do anything that's not already your vasanas. Can't take away freedom from you, and can't take away choice. Well, choice is free. Yeah. So can't take away choice. And so even though it's very nicely part of the story in Tulsi Ramayana, it's just story. To be able to justify, depict. Because also then if you say Mantra and Kaikeyi were so powerful, that doesn't look good. How can Mantra and Kaikeyi be so powerful to banish Bhagavan to the forest? No. We need Saraswati ji. Yeah. Saraswati ji did all of this. Oh yeah, she's powerful. Okay. And so it's woven into the story of for many different things, right? It serves a purpose in many different ways. But when we're studying it, we need to be very clear in our understanding. Bhagavan and Devatas cannot make us do anything we don't want to do, cannot take away our freedom. And I'm not even interested in doing that. Devatas might do something if they feel threatened by you. Which one of us are threatening any Devatas? So we are fine. Like Gautam Rishi was threatening Indra, and so then Indra came and made him jealous. But I mean, we haven't done so much tapasya, Charya, nobody's jealous of us. They haven't even noticed we exist. Also, very important. Saraswati ji had to come down to find an instrument. She couldn't just ruin the ceremony. Somebody had to be instrumental in ruining the ceremony. And the point here to note is who? Only somebody who doesn't have love for Ram in their heart could be used. And since she had this insecurity in her, the insecurity got used. Because Kaushalya had this desperate need to always be outshining everyone, that got used. Kaikeyi. Because she had jealousy in her heart, it got used. Somebody who didn't have jealousy in their heart, like Sumitra, who was also another queen, couldn't be used. So often this gets told. We will get used to do the things that whatever's there in our heart. Are we going to be the villain of the story? Yep. if we have anger, jealousy, insecurity, right? We can see very clearly how anger can become a villainous quality. We can see very clearly how jealousy can become a villainous quality. But we totally underestimate this insecurity, low self-esteem. In fact, in today's world, low self-esteem is almost fueled. Like, even though we say we want people to have healthy self-esteem, if somebody feels they have healthy self-esteem, it's bordering on arrogant to like. You have low self-esteem, you're okay, good. Almost like that. But having that quality makes us susceptible to be used, because people play on the insecurities that we have in our lives. So, mantra needed to be in a position of power. And if Kaikeyi wasn't the favorite queen, Mantra would lose her position in power. Did Mantra love Kaikeyi? Yes. Did she do a lot for Kaikeyi? Yes. But her first agenda wasn't Kaikeyi. Her first agenda was she should have power. She's a servant. How can she have power? If Kaikeyi has power. Because Kaikeyi gave her blanket permission to do anything and was completely biased to her. She brought Kaikeyi out. Kaikeyi didn't know her mother. Mantra was as good as mother. And in Mantra's calculating of making sure Mantra always had power, Kaikeyi always had power. And so Kaikeyi had full trust. Mantra will do what's best for me. Why? Because she needed to prove herself. She needed to have power. Best for me wasn't harmonious living. She never knew harmonious living for that to be her criteria. All she knew was staying, surviving, ensuring she wasn't taken for granted, pushed to the side. So, to Kaikeyi's credit, when Mantra comes in with the news, did you hear Ram is going to be king? She's overjoyed. She takes out her pearl necklace and gives it to Kaikeyi. They did this a lot in the Ramayana. Whenever they're happy, they take out necklace and they give somebody. We so confused, really. When's the last time you all took out a necklace and gave it to somebody? Even someone gave a compliment, they would take out necklace. And like, this is a Yodhya. Like Dashrath Maharaj's necklace, Kaikeyi's necklace, like they're awesome, they're very expensive, they're very beautifully aesthetic, they're very, very valuable. And just pick out you. And she's giving it to, like, this is Kaikeyi's love also for Ramchandraji, that she's so happy that she's taken out her necklace and her love for Mantra. But also, it's like, you've given me such good news, so it means whoever had given her the news, she would have taken out necklace. And Mantra made sure she was always the one giving news. Mantra had one nice collection of all. Earrings, necklace, bangles, hair pieces, gold, silver. Quite wealthy in her own right from collecting all Kaikeyi's jewelry. Mantra takes the necklace. Mantra knows very good drama. Throws it. And says to Kaikeyi, you foolish woman. Kaikeyi is used to. When you've lived with people, you're used to. Kaikeyi is like, now what's bothering you? Like, not even like, oh, what happened? No, nothing. This is like so everyday. Mantra does drama is so everyday. What happened? Okay, tell me. You are happy that Ram is going to be the king? Then, like I said, Dashrath's mistake was what mantra can use. Why is he doing it when Bharat's not? Kaikeyi, you are too sweet. You are too innocent. People take advantage of you. She knew exactly what to say. Kaikeyi prides herself in being intelligent. Not one soft, sweet girl that gets taken for a ride. She's capable, powerful woman who takes no nonsense from anyone. What is mantra saying? You foolish, sweet damsel in distress. Kaikeyi is going to sit up straight away. Mantra was an amazing strategist. Find your opponent's weak points and you won. Mantra knew everyone's weak points. So, why do we need to know this? What's your weak? That's what gets used against you. Whether people are doing it deliberately or not deliberately. We don't want to read this whole drama to see how clever mantra was. But people will use your weakest point to strategize. Do we know? Are we aware? If we're not aware, we're getting totally taken for a ride. And so, interestingly, the words that mantra says is, don't be a damsel in distress and get hoodwinked. And what's mantra doing? Totally hoodwinked. Because she knows exactly the weak point. For us to know. So, this is what they'll say. Saraswati Mata intelligently used these words to be able to shift Kaikeyi's perception. So here, wow, this section of the Ramayana, when we're talking to the kids, power of speech. Power of speech in this is so incredible. Just one 10-minute, 15-minute conversation, and Kaikeyi is this changed person. I'm giving her necklace in joy that Ram's going to be the king too. Doing one whole long saga to get him sent to the forest. Power of speech. But here it's very deliberate. Knowing the opponent's weaknesses. What's my weakness? Let me know. So often it gets, even sometimes people are not deliberately using my weakness against me. But because I have it and something is happening, I react. When we alert, we can see ourselves reacting. Remember what I said. Freedom is having choice. Reacting, I'm not choosing. When I react, I'm not choosing. I'm not free. Why am I not free? Because of my own weakness. It's like I gave away the freedom to this other person. Yeah, control me. This is my weakness. So, When am I free? When I can make choice. So the awareness in my mind that I am reacting emotionally this way, but even having that awareness that this is happening gives me the choice. Give into it, don't give into it. Initially, we don't know how to exercise that choice. But if we are aware long enough, if we sincere in staying aware, we will exercise choice. Because we've all experienced having an emotion and not giving into it. So many times, even sometimes the difficult part where I'll get lost in some emotion of sadness or some emotion of devotion. And then tears are just here, but no control, don't. Sometimes in a class like this, it's okay, cry. All of y'all will cry with me. So nice. Let's love Bhagavan more. Let's cry. And sometimes I have to talk in very difficult situations. Maybe like a funeral, or maybe you can't cry. You can have the emotion. I can have the emotion, but I cannot cry. That choice should be of being able to control it. Only then I'm free. If I can't control it, I'm not free. So, Kaikeyi lost her freedom. Because Mantra knew all her weaknesses. And then Dashrath loses his freedom. Because Kaikeyi and Mantra knew all Dashrath's weaknesses. Ramchandraji got exiled and lost his freedom that way, but never lost his freedom. Not even for a moment. Being king was not his attachment. He did not react. He consciously chose whatever he wanted to do and did it. Ramchandraji acts from freedom. Okay, coming back to Saraswati ji. She was used as an instrument in speech, and that's why this gets narrated. And like for Mantra to be so efficient in using it, you want to give Saraswati ji the credit. I totally understand that. Let's give Saraswati ji the credit of speech being so powerful instead of giving Mantra. But truth be told, it was Mantra. But she did invoke Saraswati ji and power of speech and intelligence. And you have to give credit that she was incredibly intelligent. And so isn't it interesting here? Like she's such a random player. And you see this happen all through history. She's a servant of the queen. She changes the whole dynamics of the palace. So easy to brush up a person. I've seen even in homes sometimes, that helper very quietly running lots of things. So easy to underestimate because of outer experiences, the power people hold. I'm not saying this so that we sit and judge all servants. What's my point? Are we holding our power? We don't need to hold anyone else's power. But are we holding our power? Somebody else will. Sometimes we can't be bothered holding. I see it so often. Can't be bothered. We want somebody else to make the decisions. Tell us what to do. But that's not who we are. So from one point of view, there's people who don't want to hold their power, have willingly give it away. There's other people like Kaikeyi who desperately wants power, still ends up giving it away. What is holding our power mean? This ability to make choice. Use. Ability to use our freedom of choice. Like, it's such a nice story, right? I can go into so much drama. Kaikeyi said this, Mantra said this, Kaikeyi said this, Mantra said this. It's really a very intriguing story. A lot of you have already heard it. If not, I'll go into it. Do full drama for your next week. But the thing that we need to walk away with is not, oh, Mantra was horrible, Kaikeyi was horrible. No, the thing we need to walk away with is that we are all instruments in somebody's story. And other people are instruments in our story. It's so easy to think you the bad guy in my life. But I've seen this happen to me already. I'm old enough now. That bad guy gets taken away, another one comes. Why? Somebody has to play that role. Even friend, God, another one comes. Somebody has to play that role. We constantly playing roles in other people's lives. And what role are we playing? It will depend on our insecurities, jealousy, desires, anger, attachments. Those are the roles we are playing in other people's lives. In some, we cast it very beautifully. Hero. In some, we cast it, well, only can be casted as that role if we have that quality in us. Time's up, nothing happened. No, they're preparing for the coronation. Ramchandraji is sleeping on the floor, doing all his tapasyacharya. And Kaikeyi is listening to mantra. She gave necklace. So much happened in today's class. Why send Ramchandraji away so soon? It's keeping with us for a little while. We already know he has to go. We'll wait. Let him be in the palace. Any questions? Yeah, our baggage is what makes people be able to play us.
So then how do we, so then, like, for example, in her case, she knew that she wasn't to be pushed aside. I'm sure we all have that, or any other day. How do we make sure that is
choice, your choice. And also when you know you have a weakness of insecurity, actually not everyone has that feeling of don't push me aside. Kaushalya didn't have. And Kaikeyi took limelight, like I'm saying, I promise you, Kaushalya was quite detached. She gets sad even when Ramchandraji is exiled, but she doesn't fall apart. Huh? She holds kingdom together. She supports Bharat. Not everyone has to be in limelight. It was Kaikeyi's thing. Even Sumitra didn't need to be in limelight. And Lakshman comes and says, I want to go with Ram. And she's like, yes, beta, you should. Not, how can you leave me? Don't go. I'm as important as any other queen in this palace. You are my son. None of that, none of that. Even then, Shatrughan comes and says, I'm going to go with Bharat. Yes, yes. How can you not be with Bharat? Bharat needs you right now, Shatrughan. Go. She doesn't do any drama. Kaikeyi did drama. Why? Because she had it in her. This need to prove herself. This need to be in the limelight. Yeah. Maybe limelight. I don't know if it's quite limelight, but it was more this. You can see it in a lot of women, right? When it's a man's world and then you get discarded. How dare you not value me for me? How dare you value me just on my gender? Same thing in prejudice. How dare you value me on the color on my skin? Then I'm angry at the world, at this injustice. So understandable. Because women, we can totally understand how it's so easy to be angry about such a thing. But anger is a weakness, not a strength. Even though I totally get it. You know, the purpose of anger is to highlight injustice, and it is an injustice. To favor one gender over another is an injustice. It's not like she was unfounded in her sense of injustice, which leads to anger. And if you get lost in it, it's used against you. If your attachment to that anger makes you not be able to see justice in something else, problem. Anger arises to make sure injustice doesn't happen. But if I'm so busy being angry that I cause injustice, that's no good. But that was just the baggage she's holding. Then it became became jealousy. But we get predisposed to certain emotions when we carry baggage. So the whole point today, what I wanted you to do is introspect. We are all carrying baggage that makes us predisposed to certain weaknesses. Then that makes us blind. And then we lose our choice. We're not talking about Kaikeyi so we can judge her. We're talking about Kaikeyi so that we can hold a mirror and see us. She's not the villain in the story. Ravana is the villain in the story. In Ramayana, the villain's very clear. She genuinely regrets later on also. she realizes how she felt. Also a beautiful point. We all make mistakes. And to be sincere in our actions after making a mistake. She is. You never hear from Anthropology. Shatrughan totally stands up from it. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu nikaraha, sarve bhajantu ma kaschit dukkhampave, asato ma satgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityo ma amritam. Om Purnamada Purnamida Purnamasi Purnamasi